Hello everyone, my name is Claudius Cazan. In this video, we start talking about triads. Triads are three-note chords, and we'll dive in a little deeper into this when we come back. I will also perform for you the last four lines from number 26 from Robert Starr's Rhythmic training book and Solfege number 24. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's start talking a little bit about triads. Triads are three-note chords, okay? And even early in the beginning of recorded music history, people found out that if you stack two thirds on top of each other, you get a really pleasant sound from three different voices. For example, if I go to the piano and I play C, E, and G together, okay? This one sounds pretty nice and pretty, okay? They really go well together, those three notes. And no matter what pitch I start on, okay, the quality of those triads change, but the overall sound, it remains consonant and pleasant to the human ear, all right? If we look very carefully now at each third that constitutes the triad, okay, we can see that triads can be actually of four different kinds. Remember, thirds can be primarily of two kinds. They start their life as being either major or minor. We're not talking about augmented and diminished thirds in here, because those, if you remember, those are enharmonic with other intervals, okay? So when we talk about triads, we only are concerned with the two kinds of thirds, the major and the minor thirds, all right? Now, if you have two intervals, meaning the two thirds, one on top of each other, and you have two kinds of thirds each, that's 2 to the power of 2, that means that we will have four different triads that we can combine using these two different kinds of triads, right? It's easy to just go to the piano and play C, E, and G. And you'll notice that the first third, the one on the bottom, it's a major third, C to E, right? The one on top, however, is a minor third, E to G, all right? Now, let's recapitulate really quickly, because this is important. A major third, it's made out of two major seconds, right? C to D major, D to E major. A minor third, on the other hand, it's made out of a major second and a minor second. For example, E to G, E to F minor, F to G major, right? Now, if I look at this particular triad, right? It sounds major, sounds happy, I would say. Right? So the bottom, it's big, the top is small. Okay? For this, we have one word to describe this. This is called the major triad. So remember, the major triad, it's actually a major on the bottom, but it has a minor on top. If you were to think somehow, if you want a geometric shape that would represent this, it would be a triangle with the base on the bottom. Think of it, the bigger bases on the bottom and the smaller ones on top, okay? This is your major triad. Major on the bottom, minor on top, okay? And it sounds like this. Good. Now, if I move, for example, move to a minor triad would reverse these two. Would have a minor on the bottom and a major on top. And all I have to do is move the E, the middle note, to an E flat. Okay? So now I've pretty much reversed these two qualities. I have a minor one on the bottom, C to E flat, and a major one on top. Okay? And this one sounds kind of sad in a way, if you were to put some kind of a emotion to it, right? So this is the basic of the basis of the minor. Remember the minor scale? We talked about the minor tonalities or keys for the past two videos. And you can see it right here on my tablet, the minor one as well, C, E flat, G. If you want to put some kind of a geometric shape to this, would be the inverted triangle, right? With the big bass on top and the small one on the bottom. I can't really make this with my hands, but anyway, it would be the inverted triangle, okay? Some people remember quality and triad qualities by, you know, imagining certain shapes, and it's good to do that. It makes you remember things easily. All right, there's another triad right now. It's kind of a forced triad because I have to make both thirds minor. Okay, so basically I can still start with my C to E flat, but instead of going to G natural, I can go to G flat. Okay, now this one sounds kind of compressed, right? Doesn't sound too natural somehow. It looks like you've actually, it sounds nice, it sounds consonant to me, but it looks like you've actually had to do something to create this particular triad. Now, this is called the diminished triad. Okay, so the diminished triad has a minor on the bottom and also a minor on top. Okay, so two minor thirds stacked on top of each other. Good, and then of course we have the augmented triad, which stacks two major thirds on top of each other. This one's the most dissonant of all of them. It sounds like this. Okay, major third on the bottom and major third on top. Okay, that's why you probably won't find this one too often, but composers use it creatively, not so much as a triad per se, but they have to resolve it in a certain way. For example, if I were to use this, you would expect it to go here. Okay, it resolves to some kind of a more stable triad. The augmented triad, therefore, it's a little unstable, so it needs to be resolved because of that dissonance. It's quite dissonant, right? I need some kind of a resolution because it sounds a little dissonant. See? How about the diminished triad? This one sounds kind of crying for resolution too. Something like this. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's different ways to resolve the diminished triad, but you can mostly resolve it inwards, and sometimes you can resolve it outwards too. But we'll see that. So remember, for triads, the qualities of the triads, there are four different quality of triads. The major one, major on the bottom, minor on top. The minor triad, minor on the bottom, major on top. The diminished, which stacks two minor triads on top of each other, and the augmented triad that stacks two major thirds on top of each other. All right, very good. Let's do something else now. Let's take the major key. We know about major keys right now, and let's take C major because it has no sharps and flats, and it's easy to look at this. And let's build triads on each of these scale degrees and see what kind of triads we come up with. All right, so if I go to the piano and I play a triad on C, we can analyze it and see, okay, that's your typical major triad, right? Major on the bottom, minor on top. So on the first scale degree, as you see in my diagram here on the tablet, you can see that on the first scale degree, we have a major triad. Now, we're going to use Roman numerals for this, okay? And two kinds of Roman numerals. The uppercase Roman numerals are reserved for the major triads, and the lowercase Roman numerals are going to be reserved for the minor triads. All right? So let's see. Starting on pitch C, we have, which is the first scale degree in C major, yeah, we have a major triad, and then we move to the second scale degree. This one sounds kind of sad to me, right? Because it has a minor on the bottom, major on top, right? And that's notated with a lowercase 2, Roman numeral. Let's move on to the third scale degree. That sounds pretty much like the second one. Has a minor on the bottom, major on the top. That's another minor triad on the third scale degree. Okay, how about on the fourth scale degree? That sounds major, right? Because there's a major on the bottom, minor on top. So the fourth degree gets an uppercase lower numeral, 4. Okay, the dominant, number 5, right? The fifth scale degree, it's called the dominant. On the dominant, we always have a major triad on the fifth degree. Major on the bottom, minor on top. How about on sixth scale degree? That looks and sounds minor again. Minor on the bottom, major on top. But look at this. Now I'm moving to the seventh degree. That's my little compressed one that I talked about earlier. This has 2 minors on top of each other. Now remember, I don't do anything with this scale. I just play all the pitches in C major, right? No sharps, no flats. So if we were to recapitulate this, and by the way, this applies to all major scales. It's not just C major. On the first, fourth, and fifth scale degrees, you have major triads. On the second, third, and sixth, you have minor triads. But on the seventh degree, you have the diminished triad. This is something you'll have to memorize. This is very important. It's not difficult to memorize. Remember, the most important scale degrees are the tonic, subdominant, and the dominant. Those get major triads in the major scale, right? The supertonic, the mediant, and the submediant get minor triads. And the leading tone, if you want to build a triad on the leading tone, you're going to get a diminished triad, okay? So this is for the major tonality or the major key. Let's see now what happens when we move to the minor tonality or the minor key. All right, and remember there's 3 forms of the minor, so we'll have to look at each individual one because the pitches are going to be quite different. All right, so let's move to A minor for this because it has no sharps and flats in the key signature, right? The relative minor of C major. And let's start building triads starting on pitch A. Obviously, it's a minor triad because we're in a minor key, right? So the triad on the first scale degree is minor, A, C, E, because A to C is minor and C to E is major. So therefore, we have a minor triad on the first scale degree. Let's move up to the second. Oh, that's my compressed one. That's my diminished triad. So in the minor key, in the natural minor, you have a diminished triad on the second scale degree. Let's move on. Okay. The third degree, of course, is going to be major. That's also true in C major, right? How about 4? 4 is minor this time. Okay, how about the fifth? All right, the fifth degree, because there's no leading tone in the natural minor, this one's also a minor triad. How about the sixth scale degree? Sixth scale degree is major this time. And the seventh one, this one's also major. Kind of weird, but remember, we don't use the natural minor quite as much. Okay? In tonal harmony, we use mostly either the harmonic or the melodic version because they introduce what's so necessary in tonality, the leading tone. Okay? So let's see now what happens when I move to the harmonic minor, when I start building triads like this. So I'm going back to the first degree. Of course, that's always minor, so 1 is minor. This one's diminished again on the second, but look at this. Now for the first time we see the augmented triad because we need to use G sharp. G sharp is the leading tone in A minor. So if we do this on the third scale degree, we end up with an augmented triad. How about the fourth? Oh, okay, that's minor again. How about this one? On the fifth scale degree in the harmonic minor, we finally get a major triad. Okay, and this is primarily why we need a leading tone. Okay, we always want that fifth scale degree to be a major one. All right, even if we have to resolve it to the one as a minor, but this one really ties nicely into the 5-1 resolution in there because of the leading tone that's involved. Okay, so starting in harmonic minor on the fifth scale degree, we get a major triad. Very important. How about on the sixth scale degree? A major one again. And how about on the seventh, because of G sharp, we get another diminished triad. You can look at the tablet in here and see how we only have two minor ones here on the first and the fourth scale degree. We have two diminished ones, one on the second scale degree and the seventh scale degree. And we have two majors, one on 5 and the other one on 6. But we have this odd one here as the augmented one on the third scale degree. Okay, let's see what happens when we move actually to the melodic form. Okay, when we actually introduce F sharp as well, not just G sharp. So let's go back to the first scale degree. Minor, right? How about this one with the F sharp? Second scale degree. That one's minor now. Remember, in the harmonic was diminished, now it's minor. This one stays augmented. Okay. The 4 becomes major, just like in the major scale. Okay. The fifth one stays major as well, very important. How about F sharp, A, and C now? Diminished. And G sharp, B, and D, another diminished. All right. So basically here you have minor only on the first and the second scale degrees. You have two diminished ones now, one on the 6th and the other one on the 7th scale degrees. We have two majors, one's on the 4th and the 5th, and on the 3rd we still have the augmented triad. Now these are very, very important when we start looking at harmonizing things and moving from one chord to the other. It's going to be very important. These qualities of the triads are so important. Now, if this is a little more difficult for you, some of you guys, make sure that you rewind the video and look at the diagrams that I've drawn here on the tablet. Okay, very, very important. Now, again, some people remember qualities by the mood, okay, of what these sounds suggest. For example, this is a major triad, right? You can look at my tablet right now. It's a happy triad because it's major. It's very upbeat, right? And it sounds very positive in a way. Okay, I move to a minor triad. Okay, it sounds a little serious, more sad in a way. Okay, a lot of music that has to do with expressing feelings of sad feelings, and so it will be composed in a minor key. All right, and use a lot of minor triads and minor chords. Okay, then we have this diminished triad. Kind of like in a class by itself. It's not happy, it's not sad, it's compressed, it's kind of like fabricated in a way, but it sounds nice. Okay? Makes you kind of wonder, which category can I place it on? Okay? That's why the wondering face in there. What can I do with this triad? Okay? And then you have the augmented one. Definitely. Resolve it for me. I don't like to hear that for too long. Okay? That's why, the kind of wrinkly face in there. All right? Some people remember them by this. And in my homework for you guys, I'm going to ask you to have somebody go to the piano, play some of these triads for you, and you identify them only by the way they sound, because that's kind of nice and important. All right. I'm just going to introduce you today to the root position, what we call the root position of the triad. And next time we're going to talk about the other two inversions, okay? But the root position, it's a position of the triad, okay? First of all, let's name these elements of the triads. I'm sorry. Let's name the elements of the triad, and then we'll see what... Okay, there's 3 elements in each triad, okay? You have on the bottom note, it's always called the root. Now, remember, we're talking about triads now that are arranged in thirds. We have thirds on top of each other. We haven't done anything to invert these yet, all right? So they have 2 thirds stacked on top of each other. Okay, when you have that, the bottom note, it's called the root, okay? It's the lowest sounding note in this case, okay? The middle note, it's called the third. Why? Because it's a third away from the root, okay, the lowest sounding note. And the top note, it's called the fifth. Why? Because it's a fifth away from the root. Remember, we're measuring all these intervals according to the lowest sounding note. Okay, this is going to be very important. All these elements, all these intervals are measured from the lowest sounding note. And when the triad is in stacked thirds, like this is called the root position. Why? Because the root is in the bass. Bass means the lowest sounding note. Has nothing to do with the bass voice in the choir. Okay, for example, if I take this triad and I move it really high, this low note here, it's still my bass. Why? Because it's the lowest sounding note. You know, this is way above the bass range. Basses cannot sing this high, okay? You know, this is more in the soprano or very high alto range. But in this case, we call it bass because it's the lowest sounding note. So when we talk about triads, we call the bass the lowest sounding note, okay? In the root position triad, when they are stacked in thirds, okay, the bass note happens to be also the root, or the root also happens to be the bass, okay? So remember, the root position, it's when you have the triad stacked in thirds, okay? You look at it, and you see that it's either on the staff lines or all notes on the spaces, okay? If you have them like that, that means they're in root position, all right? So that's why you can see the 5 and the 3, the numbers 5 and 3 notated in there, okay? So these are all intervals above the bass note. Very, very important, because that's how you measure. You measure things up. So you have your bass note, and you look, what intervals do I have above that bass note? In this case, we have a third, and we also have a fifth. Obviously, the top number, the higher number gets put on top, and the lower number gets put on the bottom, okay? So this is very, very, very important for you guys to understand and to know, okay? So this is called the root position. The figured notation for this, you can see that in parentheses, is the 5-3, okay? So if I put a 5 and a 3 underneath a note by itself, I know that I have to build on top of that note, okay, a third and then a fifth. How many notes will I end up with? 3 notes, right? The given note, and then the third and the fifth on top of that. So 3 notes all together. And this is called the root position. Remember, in root position, your root is on the bottom. It's in the bass, okay? The third is in the middle, and the fifth is on top. Next time, we're going to take a look at the other 2 inversions of the triads. That's going to be very, very important. Okay? But I want you guys to get very familiar with the figured notation. Okay? The 5 and 3 in this time. But guess what? Because this root position is so common, all right, when we start doing analysis of chords, or when you're asked to resolve a figured bass line, if you do not see anything under a given note, you have to assume that it's 5-3. In other words, that's the root position. So associate 5-3 with the root position. All you have to do at that point is build a third and a fifth on top of the given note, and you end up with a triad in root position. So 5-3 or root position is the same thing, okay? And a lot of the times does not get notated. It's taken for granted. So you don't see any figures under a bass line. That means root position. Okay, build your third, build your fifth, and you're done. Okay? Next time we're going to take a look at the other two inversions of the triad. All right? And we're going to do some exercises too with triads. We're not going to take the time today, but next time we're going to look at the triad inversions, and we'll do some exercises with triads. Very good. This is all there is for today for the theory part. Now let's go on and do the solfege. Solfege number 24. Okay? And solfege number 24, it's written again in the minor key. It's G minor. You can see the two flats in the key signature. And how do I know it's G minor and not B flat major? It's because of the notes. Okay, it starts with a G, it goes down to an F sharp. F sharp is the leading tone in G. That tells you a lot. And also, if you look at the very end in the last measure, it also does the same thing. You have an F sharp leading to the G, and the solfege ends with the G. You know, so most likely, 99.9%, if you see something like this, you know it's written in G minor instead of B flat major. However, everything else in between, it's a big hodgepodge of pitches and stuff that are kind of difficult to sing sometimes. So this solfege, like any other one, needs to be studied, needs to be, you need to go to the keyboard, sound the pitches, work one line at a time or one measure at a time if you need to, put them together into a credible performance after that. Metronome is still at 90. So moderato, not too fast, not too slow. But what's also fun in here is the changing meters. We have changing meters in the star later. So I figure that, you know, since we're dealing with changing meters, why not do changing meters for the solfege as well? Okay, so you start in 4/4, and then you move to 3/4, 2/4, back to 4/4 for a few measures, 3/4, and so on. You only stay within these 3 meters, 3/4, 4/4, and 2/4, because you have all the pitches that you have to worry about, which are more difficult than the changing meters. So I'm going to put my metronome at 90, and let me see if I can get my pitch here. Sol, right? Okay, metronome on. Sol, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, do, si, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, la, re, fa, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, mi, sol, do, si, do, re, si, la, fa, sol, mi, fa, re, mi, do, fa, sol, mi, do, mi, fa, sol, mi, re, do, re, fa, mi, re, mi, si, do, si, sol, fa, sol, do, si, la, sol, mi, fa, sol, re, sol, si, la, sol, fa, sol, do, mi, fa, sol, re, si, la, do, sol, fa, re, la, sol, re, si, fa, sol. All right, not too bad. You can see pitches are quite difficult in here, and you have to, on top of that, keep track of your conducting, okay? Luckily, there's no 5/4 or 7/4 or anything funny like that, where you have yet another layer of something that you have to think about. So, hope you guys looked at this and you found it doable. If not, you have to practice, and you'll be able to do it eventually. All right, let's look at the star number. You had number 26 for today. Okay, number 26 is the last one in this chapter, and it deals with changing meters. Okay, changing meters here are 3, 4. I'm looking at the last 4 lines that I promised I would perform for you. 3, 4, 2, 4 for a while, and then 3, 4 again, 4, 4, and then you have 5, 4. Remember this 5, 4 is performed on the formula of 3 and then 2. Okay, you can see the double bar line in there. And then you have a 6, 4. Okay, remember 6, 4, since you have the quarter note as the beat here, you have to conduct in 6. So that means down, 2 to the left, 1 big one to the right, and 2 up. So, and then you have 2, 4, 3, 4 again, going back and forth. So let's see how that pans out and how I can do it. Metronome can still stay at 90. That's fine. Da 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 da. All right, not too bad. Okay, what it's very likely to throw you off is that 6, 4. Okay, when you're concentrated on conducting 3 and 4, even the 5, it's based on the 3 and 2, which is not too bad. But then you have the 6, and I have a completely different conducting to take care of right there. So, all right, great. For next time, please take a look at the number 27 and 28, both of them. These are regarding triplets. We're going into triplets, okay? And it starts easy in 2, 4. You can see in here how he wants you to divide the beat basically in 3 equal parts. Means triplets. We notated with the bracket up on top, okay, and so on. I'll let you guys figure it out. I will probably perform for you the number 28 entirely, since there's only 4 lines in there. Number 28, so you can see what's going on. Actually, I'm looking at 27 right now. 27, it's written in 2, 4, and it divides each beat into 3. But number 28, it's actually written in 6, 8. Okay, with no triplet brackets or anything like that, because you don't need it in 6, 8. You have 6 beats naturally in there. But in the 2, 4, if you want to divide the beat into 3 equal parts, you have to use triplets. Okay, and I'll probably perform both of them for you, since they're not that long, and you'll have a chance to compare. Excellent. So we're done for today. In my next video, again, we're going to talk more about triads. We'll look at the triads inversions. Okay, very important. And solfege number 26 this time, and the 2 exercises from Robert Starr, the number 27 and 28. Until next time, I want you guys to stay healthy and safe and be good. Thank you.